Now, as far as the word jail goes, and this is going to pertain more to those that are actually using the secret stories, when you make a word jail, it is nothing more than a bulletin board, as I said, that's devoted to putting up words that kids need to be able to memorize in order to read them and to write them and do so accurately, to spell them correctly, or to be able to attack them in text. It's done under the guise that these are the words that are going to try to trick you, they're going to try to get by you, and just like at the police station, how they'll put up pictures of the guys they got to keep an eye on because they know they're going to try to get past them, we have to do this with words that we know are going to try to get past us. The kids own the jail. The kids are the detectives that make the arrests and put the words in jail. So they are primarily words, again, based on this need to know, they are words that come up through the context of what our daily instruction consists of and what kids decide they have an issue with or that they have to have access to some sort of reference in order to handle them. Now, whether you have an individual jail, and there are in the Secret Stories book little placards for use for an individual jail where everything's done in mini size as far as the outlaw guys, and you can do that with a folder, and you can use that for purposes of a writing portfolio, individual jails for words that different students might struggle with, whereas another student might not. This is especially helpful if you are in an upper grade and spelling is more your nemesis. You're not looking at this as in order to be able to read, to build, but what you're really trying to do is fine-tune some constant spelling errors that maybe a particular student makes. So in those cases, if you want to differentiate, it's nice to have an individual jail. But for your classroom jail, there are placards in the book that are bigger, and they're little outlaw guys, and basically you put the little index card where the little outlaw guys, basically where they're you know how when someone has a mug shot and they have their little card up and it says who they are and any other information identifying, that's where the word goes, is in this little outlaw guy's mugshot placard template area. Now, once you put those words up, we are a liberal court, which means we try to rehabilitate. We try to move those words through the system so that we do not have an overcrowded prison system. The last thing that we want is so many words up on our word wall that kids can't use it for the purpose it exists, which is as a reference tool for them to be able to keep track of and to visually identify, to build visual acuity for the spelling and the reading of these particular words. We don't want this to become so overfull, as often can be the case with sight words, that the kids aren't able to use it for that purpose. And again, there are different purposes for word walls. Everybody has, you could have 3 word walls in your room, all for different purposes. But for our purposes, because this is a reference point for being able to read and write the words that are the most difficult, we want to keep it focused only on those words that continue to be a problem. So as soon as a word seems to be not so much of an issue, the spelling across the board among the class, they seem to have a handle on it. Kids aren't stumbling on it or coming to a dead halt when they try to read and they see it. As you begin to see more comfort and familiarity, take it down. Let it be paroled. Now, I do say that we follow, I think it's California's law, that if they are captured 3 times, with 3 infringements, they are a lifer. They then go to jail for the rest of the year. Because if they do continue to pose a problem for learners, sometimes it's best to keep it up there. But for the most part, look at that word jail as an ever-changing, constantly ebb and flow like learner artifact. I say ebb and flow as in, as opposed to something that just moves forward constantly, because there will be an ebb and a flow. You will see certain words pose no longer, pose a problem, and then all of a sudden begin to cause a problem again. Often those are words that students aren't using on a regular basis, but they might be words of interest to them for a particular topic. Like if you're doing a fairy tale unit and they talk about the beautiful princess, the word beautiful is a great word to put in jail. It's also a word that learners might not use often, and therefore a couple months later, after you've taken it down, and then you start another unit where the word beautiful creeps up again as a kind of a reoccurring theme, you might see that they've lost some of that spelling capability, because again, it's about how often they access a particular skill when you're looking at using memorization as your learning tool. That's why the Secret Stories doesn't access memorization. It's not working from a memorization route, as typically these isolated phonemic patterns do. It's because if you do that, you've got an unlevel playing field. for all those students who are never going to get the same level of repetitious practice as other students who are fortunate enough to have support at home and are able to use these skills outside of their time with us. Going that route for acquisition of these skills is just an unfair route for those learners that cannot rely on repetition and use to master these skills. They need a logical route. They need a way to think through diagnostically and critically analyze the sounds and the symbols based on something that has meaning. And that's what the secret stories that's the construct in which the secret stories is used. It's to think through your options based on something that's real and that makes sense, that all learners can function within this kind of artificial construct that you create based on this meaning that you now have about these sounds and these symbols. Using your jail as an opportunity to work through those and reinforce those patterns and those sounds and the reasons for the sounds and the reasons the patterns make their sounds and the other options you can try when a particular pattern doesn't make the sound that it should. That is the key to the jail use for the secret stories. That is the way that those words should come about being posted onto that word jail, and that is also the basis for their release from the word jail. If you have any questions about how else to use the word jail or some other ideas for putting it up together onto a bulletin board, you can always go to the Facebook page, the Secret Story Facebook page. You just type in Secret Stories on Facebook and it'll pop up, because I think there I also get a little more specific about how to create your bulletin board. It's fairly simple. You can just put up black board paper with the placard pieces and then whatever you want to use to simplify the jail, at the top. You don't even have to use it as jail. Sometimes you're in a particular community where you have, a lot of parents that might be incarcerated, or students whose connections with, family members in jail is strong. And I did teach in an area where it was right next to a penitentiary, and many of our students did have family members in jail. So you can alter it. You can make it a principal's office if you want to. You can make it a post office where you put up the outlaws, like the Old West. However you need to do it to maintain student comfort, but just keeping the idea as those words that we need to take a picture of, meaning see as a whole, to remember what they look like, because you can't read them, so that they don't get by us in our reading and in our writing. And they will stay there until we can show that we see them coming a mile away and they couldn't trick us if they tried. Now, if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. And I will say that what I didn't really touch on were those bigger words that aren't those high-frequency, one-syllable sight words. And that just stands more to common sense. Those are just words that you can't read. Like I said, beautiful. They're typically going to be words that come out of, derived from another language. Pizza, beret, words that are based or built on a system of rules that are not ours. And otherwise, higher level reading text words, and that would be more headed toward a vocabulary purpose for having your word wall. So as we get into kind of the multisyllabic words, we enter a different territory, and that's going to fall more under a future vlog that I'm going to do called What Happens When the Secrets Don't Work, and that'll be geared a little bit more to both levels, primary and intermediate, but it will also kind of delve a little more deeply into the higher level reading text and how to use the secrets to crack apart some of those higher level words. So thank you so much, and I'm sorry that this had to contain so many parts to get these points across, but I do hope this was useful, whether you're using the secrets or whether you aren't, just to put a different perspective or a little bit of a different spin on, again, the most important thing, which is why we do what we do and what it is that we're trying to get out of it for our students.